Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming, and hey, it's our first day of Dragon's Dogma 2 and its full release. For me, I've been extremely lucky to have access to the game slightly early, so I've actually put a lot of time into the game already, and I've learned a lot through that. One of the main things I've been thinking about while going though, is anything that would be nicer to know a bit earlier. Anything that would save me time in game, or gold, or just improve the experience. The title might say 10 things, but it's definitely going to be a pile of things that I think are going to be really useful to know. And with that said, I'll keep this as spoiler free as possible. I just want this to be a useful video for you. So let's get started. And I'll kick this off with a variety of general tips, then cap it off with some specific ones I think are going to be nice. Firstly, when you reach 0 health, you die. But not really. If you get slapped by something and your health drops to death levels, you can actually just use a potion, or well, any healing option, before the death really takes hold and effect. The simple ability to heal when knocked to 0 has saved my life an insane amount of time. I'd probably have died 90% more than I really have if I wasn't using this little strat. It's allowed me to take on serious challenges way early and kind of bull through some of the tougher fights because I can learn those mechanics even if they do one-shot me, because hey, I can get back up again. It's like giving yourself a second wind, and it's always going to be worth it then to heal in those moments if you have any healing available. And remember, you don't have to go into the menu to do it. You can hold L1 on, say, a PlayStation controller. This swaps you to your weapon skill menu. As you can see at the bottom left, we have our 4 options. On the top one, I have the healing potions. On the bottom, I've got the ones for stamina, which can save me in those moments where, hey, you know what, I've actually ran out of stamina at the wrong time as well. This is probably one of the most impactful tricks to be aware of for combat as a whole. But speaking of preventing deaths, you've got your pawns. To prevent their true death, you just have to run up and hold the revive button on them for a little while, and that brings them back up. What's helpful in a fight is how sometimes a pawn will bring another down pawn right to you to help out. And there's a clever trick you can use around that mechanic, because when you're reviving, there's actually a kind of circle around the pawn you're currently reviving. That circle is actually the range the revive will impact. This then means you can technically revive multiple pawns at once as long as they're within that short range of the circle of the revive. And it's not hard to do either. You can pick up a down pawn yourself and move it to another down pawn and go for the double revive, or like I said, have another pawn bring another down pawn to you while you're mid reviving another and efficiently bring them both up. It's the difference of, say, having to use 10 or 15 seconds to revive your guys than just 5 seconds, which massively cuts down the time you're not in the fight. You might be fine if you're good at playing the game, but your pawns are always going to get hit, so being able to effectively revive and keep the fight going without spending ages reviving all the time yourself, that'll make those early challenges much more possible. Now let's talk about some awesome out of combat stuff, but stuff still tied to combat, like Vocation Masters, which are rarer, special characters that will teach you ultimate techniques for each vocation. And we're talking about some insane abilities. Looking at the Thief one here, this is Formless Feign, which allows you to basically consume stamina in a passive, consistent way, but as you can see, it makes you iframe any attack that's going for you, which is absolutely ridiculous and is one of the strongest defensive things you can do in the entire game. With a warrior in this case, it's going to channel all of the strength into one blow, consuming all your stamina but dealing a ridiculous hit in a single use. Take the Archer's Heavenly Shot, consuming all the stamina in the same way for one ridiculously powerful fire. Having a really strong ability then when you need it is going to be great. And it's not just for you, remember, it's your main pawn that's going to benefit from things like that. So getting them unlocked for, most of the vocations, if not all of them, will come in handy. To unlock them, you just need to form a positive relationship with the master of that vocation, and they'll eventually give you a scroll, which when consumed, teaches you and also your pawn that technique. It'd definitely be too long of a section for this video if I was to talk about every master, but to give you a guideline, there is Leonard. Leonard is an early important character you can't really miss. He's part of the main story at the very beginning. Now, without big spoilers, you will at one point return to Melve and help the town with an attack. When you finish repelling it, Leonard will reward you with the Fighter's Master technique. But there is another master in the starting area that you won't want to miss, and I definitely did until much later. That's this guy, the Warrior Master, Baron. If we look at the starting area, and you got the Border Watch outpost, which is the first kind of outpost you'll interact with, just down the main road, and as you head away from Melve north, you cut to the right and find yourself at Baron's tent and his camp just next to the Moonglow Garden. As a heads up, I needed to go at night to actually see him there, But he has a whole quest line to complete, which actually requires some main story progression to get all the way, but he does reward a pretty damn decent warrior greatsword if you're interested. The short version of that is you'll first need to get him 3 swords, which can easily be bought at the camp to the northeast in that same area. He'll then need an apprentice to help teach. You find that one in Vernworth. It just approaches you once you're in the city. And then when you go back, you help out with some trouble with some goblins and a cyclops. And with the cyclops taken down, he'll give you his sword. At which point he'll head all the way southwest to the checkpoint rest town, and he'll just be beyond the border in his childhood home, which when you go meet him at that home, he just gives you the master's technique. However, as I said, you will need to progress the main story to actually get past the border, but as soon as you've done that, you can get this. Now let's talk pawns specifically, and there's a few things I realized about these guys that could be handy for you. Firstly, if your pawns pawn out something of interest, like a ladder location to try, it appears for a bit on your minimap as an exclamation mark. This just helps you spot things you might have missed, and I'm loath to admit that it took me a few days to realize that's how that worked. But yeah, they also point other things out, like say materials you can gather or chests that appear on the minimap for a bit, but it's more helpful if you direct with them. You see, at the bottom left of my screen, we have 4 options. We have go, we have wait to hold them in place, we have to me to get them to group on me, and we have help to get them to use any relevant ability they can. As you can see here, Primrose is trying to heal me because I've used the help button. Whatever option they can do to help me in that moment, they'll just try it. This is great if you have a mage in the party because they have that particularly good core skill, an AoE heal, which they'll use if you're slightly hurt when using the help command. Alternatively, they'll run up and try to cleanse a debuff, or most importantly, they'll provide you the haste buff if you have that equipped. The haste buff is this one, Celerity, which becomes high celerity when you upgrade it. As you can see, it gives you a movement speed buff, but also a cast speed buff and also an attack speed buff. The attack speed stuff is ridiculous in combat. It's an incredible buff just for that, but also the movement speed is great for traversal. When you're traveling the land, being able to run at like twice the speed regularly for quite a while when you get high celerity is awesome, and it costs nothing to do. If you have a mage in the party that has celerity equipped, you can just use help. They'll run over, they'll pop that buff when you're not hurt, and then you can just cross the land sprinting around everywhere. And because it's a really good buff in combat, I would really recommend you have that. If you're not going to have your main pawn as a mage so that you can, choose that, then I would suggest when you're picking a temporary mage pawn to see if they've got celerity and make sure that they generally do. Okay, so now let's talk general NPC and story progression tips, which really helped me out when I realized them. Firstly, as a rule, you want to go check back with main NPCs regularly as you're progressing the game. It is very easy for them to simply not update you or hint in any way that, hey, you should go talk to them, they have new stuff to tell you. It even occurs with the main storyline. It made me spend overly long wandering around doing side stuff at one point, which is fine, but it's good to know that you will have to go back and check on important NPCs, and sometimes when you talk to them, they'll let you know they have a new quest for you. Further, progressing a quest from step A to B sometimes just won't happen naturally. A trick around that is to pass time using the pass time mechanic, whatever way that takes for you, rather than letting the time pass normally. One great example of that would be benches, which usually have this red little marker on them allowing you to sit. When you sit down on them, you can see that you can either get up or doze off. And as I choose to doze off, it's going to jump me forward in time. In this case, it was the evening, so it's put me to night. That could be really good if the mission I'm going to go do requires me to be at nighttime. In fact, many do. Or maybe I just want to use an ox cart and they only show up in the morning since that's the safest time to travel. So I'll just skip to the morning and now I can use it. That cost me no gold or anything. Obviously, the alternative is to come to any town and go to the inn where you can choose to properly rest. When you choose to rest, of course, it's going to restore your lost health back to full, but in this case, it's going to cost us gold, and that varies depending on what inn you're at. You could also choose to camp, but you'll need a campfire for that and obviously a camping setup. But skipping forward in time using these different options is going to allow you to progress mid-story stuff. Many times I've technically been in the right place at the right time as per the quest request, but then it's just not working. If I went to a bench or slept or whatever, push the time forward using that mechanic, it would reset the quest and actually put it to its next step, fixing the issue. By the way, there's another trick that we can just reference with the ox carts. If I speak to this guy, he'll let me know where it's going. So this one's going to Vernworth. That's ideally where it's going to go. So as I use that and then skip time, I'll end up all the way over here in the town. But there's this whole route that's going to have to take to get between there. And let's say I want to land around here or I have a mission up here. Well, I can choose to get on that ox cart, and as it's going through here, we might be attacked. At which point I'll have to defend us, and then I can get back on the ox cart to teleport to Vernworth. Or I can just choose to stay off the ox cart and travel north, or wherever the actual place I want to go is. It's just a simple, pretty useful, works about 50% of the time trick to help me get around the world without having to run there in the first place, saving a lot of time. Now, another general tip about towns and encampments is to just search them. And I mean, aggressively go into every house, check every alley, every corner, every tent, search everything. Because there's often loot just lying around or chests to open. And for some reason, they just let me do this. Often there's just gold pouches sat around for hundreds or thousands of gold that's completely free to take. There doesn't seem to be a casual breaking the law mechanic in this game. So you can just take all these supplies, the chest items, the gold, and have no problem doing so. I found loads of useful consumables through this, and I've made a lot of money. Speaking of money, I'm wearing a fancy outfit that's normally really expensive. This is the chest piece of the courtly tunic and the courtly breeches for the legs. This courtly fancy outfit is required for a variety of quests. Sometimes you need to speak with someone who expects you to be well dressed, or maybe you need to go to court. There are areas where you literally cannot go unless you dress well. The problem you might find is that you can actually buy this court outfit in Vernworth, sure, for an insanely expensive price. If you're in day 1, 2, maybe even 3 of playing, it's too much to ask. However, I'm here to tell you that you can get the full courtly outfit for completely free, and it's here in Vernworth. If you make your way to the south side of the town, up to the hill of the palace or the castle, and come into this main room, you'll find some stairs on either side. These lead up to the private rooms of the palace, and a few of them are locked, and a few of them are open. One such room is the guest room here, which you can freely walk into. It has a chest that, hey, contains both halves of the courtly outfit. That is a massive amount of gold saved right there. Now you can have the outfit whenever you need it. Like I said, it will come up in the main quests and side quests. You're definitely going to want to have this on hand. And if it's just lying there for free, why would you spend a load of money? Okay, here's one last thing that matters to me quite a lot personally. As you can see, my character's hair is blue, which yes, simply was not an option in the character creator. That is because you need to go and buy dyes, which can then be taken to a hairdresser to update their options, to allow for a huge range of gradients of the color that you brought them. They'll also have a tab for colors based on the region you're in, but to unlock dyes, you'll first need to reach the desert region. That is to the southwest of the map, so you will need to progress the story a little bit. When you make it to the main city of Bak Batal, before you actually enter the city, there's kind of a small little encampment here that allows you and your pawns to go. At that little bar there is a dye vendor. So here we can buy different dye colors. They're not overly expensive, and now we can take them to any hairdresser. This is just a nice relief for me because, you know, I like my characters to have blue hair. And with how awesome the character creator actually was, I was so confused and disappointed to find the really lacking color options for hair. So it just turns out they're an in-game mechanic that you need to unlock, and now you know. But I think that'll do it for the video. There's a bunch of hopefully really helpful things to know there without being too spoilery. If the video did help, please do drop a like on it. And if you have any extra tips that you've learned, you can drop it in the comments. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.